Shabbat Shalom. I'm Rabbi Joe Mendelsohn of the Reformed Temple of Laguna Woods. It's a pleasure to welcome you to Sifrei Imani, the stories of our people. And with me today is Rabbi Robin Foonberg of Congregation B'nai Israel. Robin, it's good to have you.
Shabbat Shalom. It's nice to see you today, Joe.
It's a pleasure. And this is Parashat Mishpatim. This is the section of our Torah where we've moved the story along. We've received the commandments at Mount Sinai. So what is the next step? A lot more. We get 53 more. And as Robin and I were talking earlier, this is all about holiness. Robin, you want to explain what we're talking about?
Thank you. Yes, when I read through Mishpatim in preparation for today, the one verse that stands out for me is in chapter 22, verse 30, where it says, "You shall be holy people to me." Now, we're told this many times throughout the Torah that you are a holy people because I am the Lord your God, I'm holy. But to be told it at this point, after listening to so many mishpatim, so many rules and laws, it's a reminder that all of our actions, external from ourselves, the way in which we interact with people, the way in which we interact with the land, the way in which we observe our faith, all of that is what makes us a holy people.
Yeah, and the other thing is, we look at the holidays and all these special days as being holy days, which suggests being separate and different from our daily lives. And what Robin's really talking about is the fact that the holiness within us is in our daily lives. We don't wait for those holy days. We don't wait for Shabbat or the Chagim or anything else. It's a daily experience. One of the examples of that is that this also happens to be the Repro Shabbat that's been co-sponsored by NCJW, the National Council of Jewish Women, and the rabbis for Repro. And within this parsha, we have the verse about two men fighting and injuring a woman, and she ends up losing the fetus. And from this is the whole definition of abortion, which is a different definition than other religions. So all of the legal complications that we're going through in today's times and all the challenges that our people are experiencing fit in with this concept of holiness.
Absolutely. And the life of the mother as being holy is such an important value for us as Jews. In that passage, when two men are fighting and the woman is hurt and it causes her to lose her baby, the ramification of that is that she is owed some money. She's owed some compensation for the loss, which is an indication to us that that baby, that fetus, isn't actually a person yet. And that's how we get to the point where we understand in Jewish law that abortions are allowed. They're not meant to be done easily or as a method of birth control in and of itself. But in the case where a mother needs to have an abortion for whatever her personal reasons are, it should be allowed. This is a very important understanding for us as Jews and in terms of today's world and how abortion is such such an intense argument because people are on so many different sides.
And what we've done is made it a political issue and moved away from the holiness issue that we're talking about. Because when Robin and I were talking before we started, one of the things that was really important was to understand that holiness is treating everyone equally. Mm-hmm. And this is a wonderful example of how people of color, the young, those who have physical disabilities, the LGBTQ community, all these different groups are really being discriminated against. They're being challenged by the current laws dealing with being able to obtain an abortion. And that's exactly against the holiness we're talking about.
Absolutely. And isn't it interesting, Joe, in this parsha that we have rules about people being treated fairly in court? You know, we're not supposed to bribe judges, and people are not supposed to be judged based on their wealth. And we see that as being an issue in our modern times as well, with so many people, especially people of color, claiming that they don't get a fair share and a fair opportunity in court. And it is, unfortunately, our judicial system has become a little bit of an unholy system. It'd be nice to bring some holiness back to the justice system, remembering that justice in and of itself is a holy value for the Jewish people.
Well, as far as
right?
Yeah. And as far as I'm concerned, you know, justice is what drives us completely.
Yeah.
You know, right in the beginning of Breshit, Abraham calls upon God and says, look, you're a God of justice. You have to deal justly. And that's
Right.
the beginning of us understanding that justice is not a personal, that's not fair, but rather justice is something that is across the board, creating an equal playing field for all of us.
Right. I do love the fairness issue, though. I being the director of our religious school at Congregation B'nai Israel, you know, we hear this from children a lot. That's not fair. And, you know, in some ways they're right. And of course, what's our response? Well, sometimes life isn't fair. And, you know, that's true because things happen that are beyond our control. But to the extent that it is within our control, we need to do whatever we can to make sure that people are treated fairly. And when someone says this isn't fair, we need to look at that carefully and say, why isn't this fair? Why aren't people of color and LGBTQ communities and women being treated fairly?
Right. And of course, you know, that treating your fellow person, which is something we're going to read later, you establish justice, you establish fairness by doing it yourself.
Yes.
You know, and of course, I'm sure you're teaching your kids, you know, to be a good example is how you're going to achieve this justice.
That's absolutely right. You know, we definitely teach our children what it means to be a mensch is to treat people as if they are, in fact, beings created by God, B'Tselem Elohim, in God's image. And when we all come to that understanding that all people are created equal and all people are created in the divine image, then we change the way we view the world and we view all the people in our communities.
Yeah. So, you know, this discussion is not just the theory. This is the reality. This is what we live with. And, you know, Repro Shabbat is being observed in many of our congregations this weekend. Look to see what teaching sessions are available, listen to the different sermons and drashes, because this is what we're living with. And this is, you know, we should not be dictated according to religion, but rather religion provides us the values that we live with. And we're seeing a real problem here in the country, as Robin pointed out earlier.
Yeah, you know, people often ask, how is religion relevant today? Well, just take a look at Mishpatim to see how it is relevant, because so much of what it talks about are issues that we are dealing with in our country today and in our society. And let the Torah guide us. Let the Torah remind us of what we need to do to be a holy nation. And I don't mean just the holy nation of Jews, but the holy nation of the United States, right? And the holy nation of Israel. And the worldwide community, as we see what's unfolding now with Russia and the Ukraine, we are a world at crisis, and we need to remember how we, each of us individually, can make a difference.
You know what? We could go on, but I think we've really covered the essence of Parashat Mishpatim. Yeah. So on behalf of Robin Foonberg and myself, we want to wish you a Shabbat Shalom, and thank you for tuning in.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.